Hello and welcome to the Strategy Remix. I am your host and moderator, 𝗧𝗿𝗲𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 and practice of generative AI and how it is having a practical and tangible impact beyond the hype. A quick bit of housekeeping whilst we wait for people to join. Remember, this is live social audio. So, if you have a question or a comment, please use the raise hand button and I will promote you to the virtual stage. So, in this edition, we will explore how Gen AI is reshaping customer experience with a deep dive into both how innovation is being generated and how entrepreneurs are bringing incredible new software to the market that is live, up and running, and creating benefits for companies, their customers, and employees. To discuss this, I'm honored to have with me a panel of genuine industry experts for whom this topic is a core competency. I'll introduce today's panelists. First, we have Mike Myer, who is CEO and founder of Quiq, a company that is revolutionizing with generative AI and text messaging how customers and companies communicate. Mike has a deep background in customer experience technologies, having previously been CTO for Right Now Technologies, which was acquired by Oracle and subsequently became Oracle Service Cloud. Mike is a technologist at heart with an MSc in computer science from Rutgers University. Secondly, I am pleased to introduce my colleague, Domitilla Caputo, aka Domi, who is the head of SAP I/O San Francisco, SAP's No Equity Ask external startup accelerator. In her role, she designs and leads programs that help startups launch partnerships with SAP, developing joint go-to-market strategies, and connecting with SAP customers. She has a passion for diversity and empowering women. She is a co-lead for one of the SAP Business Women's Network California chapters and a mentor for several women-focused communities. Prior to joining SAP, Domi worked internationally across Europe and Canada in multiple roles, managing business development and commercial relationships with strategic accounts in the retail and advertising industries, including IKEA, and Vodafone. And finally, I'm very excited to have with us Ejieme Eromosele, who is a seasoned customer advocate and a career dedicated to guiding top companies in achieving exceptional customer experiences. As the general manager of EMEA at Quiq, she serves as the go-to-market leader for the region, offering invaluable advice on harnessing AI to enhance customer experiences, boost sales, and reduce operational costs. With a strong background in management consulting and prior experience as a managing director of customer experience at the New York Times, Ejieme has a proven track record in driving customer retention, loyalty, and brand advocacy. So, we will discuss the topic of Gen AI and customer experience in three main themes with the panel: origination, practicalities, and finally, the future. So with that, let's get started, and a big welcome to Mike, Domi, and Ejieme. All right, hello and welcome everybody. I'm 𝗬𝗲𝗻𝗀𝗻𝗀, your host, and let's get started. Welcome, Mike, Ejieme, and Domi.
Thanks, Samar. Excited to be here.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Most welcome, guys. Thank you so much for your time today. All right, so let's kick off this discussion. Mike, first question for you. Could you introduce for our audience, please, Quiq, and what was the inspiration behind Quiq, and how did Gen AI specifically become integral to its conception?
Sure. So Quiq has been around for a number of years. And when we started the business in 2015, I had the observation that if I wanted to get something done with family and friends, a text message was the easiest way to do that. And I had a whole bunch of experience in the contact center space. As you mentioned, I previously was CTO for Right Now. And so I understood how large contact centers ran. And in those days, contact centers ran on email and web chat and the phone. And there was no reason why text messaging didn't fit into that stack. And so that's where we started the business, and we built out a very robust platform that I would label as the next generation contact center for asynchronous messaging. And as we evolved our journey, it didn't take too long to figure out that, well, all conversations don't have to be handled by humans. It would be really amazing if some of the conversations could be automatically resolved, not contained, but actually resolved through AI. And in our journey in the era right before COVID, we had expanded the platform to support conversational AI. And that turned out to be really useful during the pandemic because nobody had enough customer service resources available and they were looking for other solutions. And our conversational AI worked really well in that time period. And so now this latest round of AI with generative AI and GPT has really been another boon to the platform because, frankly, we were in prior generations able to automate customer experiences, but it was pretty clear you were interacting with a computer. It wasn't like as conversational, as natural as it was interacting with a human. And this latest AI, and we'll talk more about this as we go along, this latest AI has really kind of like changed the game. Because for the first time, we can have interactions that are much more approaching a human than what it felt like in the past, a computer. And so no more chatbots, things that are a little bit smarter in this generation.
All right. Yeah, I think we've all experienced those chatbots a few years back. I think very frustrating sometimes from a customer experience perspective. And the change that you're bringing in, that kind of naturalistic approach to generative AI, I think can really deliver real value. And as you say, we'll come on to that a bit more detail. Ejieme, I wanted to ask you, having been a beacon for customer experience across various industries I talked about in my introduction, how was your first encounter with Gen AI and what potential did you see in it?
Yeah, really great question, Samar. So I think I was like many of you who tried ChatGPT early on when it kind of hit the scene. And I was really blown away by the ability for it to, do a few things, right? Respond very quickly, empathetically, and with what seemed to be, an endless source of information. It was literally trained on all of the internet. I think my first prompt was something like, tell me what you can do, right? So I've played with other sort of generative AI like Midjourney, obviously had a few unserious inquiries there. I think this was around the time when, the Pope in the puffer jacket was trending. But in general, I think that the potential that I saw was, being able to finally more realize the value of AI in our everyday lives, right? So these little assistants, that can actually now help us be more efficient, more productive, whether you're a student or a business executive. And because it's so easy to speak to these assistants like you would any other human, the ability to be used by many different people from all walks of life, I felt was quite powerful. Overall, I think what we're seeing now that it's been a few months is that, having the ability for these technologies to be adopted quickly. So by adopted quickly, that again means that, many different people can interact with them. Many people now want to interact with them. We don't have to force self-service options down people's throat like we used to. So I think the adoption will definitely lend itself quite well to several use cases. And then this technology is now being adapted very quickly, right? So we're seeing various use cases across business and enterprise, various industries being able to leverage generative AI from things like improving marketing spend to customer service use cases as well. So really quite exciting time to be alive, I would say.
Yes, as a lifelong technologist myself, this was the promise I think we always had. I was much younger. I won't say how much younger, but to have actually a talking computer that would be able to connect and solve your problems in a lifelike and helpful way, right? This is always the promise of sci-fi, and to a certain extent, it's now at our doorstep. But I wanted to pivot to you, Domi. So from your point of view and where you are fostering and mentoring startups at SAP.io, can you share the moment when you first came across Quiq and how their particular vision stood out for you?
Yes, of course. I know that generative AI is a hot topic, right? But we have some fundamentals at SAP.io, which is we start by looking at funders, and funders are the most important thing to us. It doesn't really matter if it's generative AI or Web3 or blockchain or the hottest topic out there at the moment. And when we looked at Mike and we saw really a founder who has the domain expertise, he has the passion and the drive and the expertise to really go all the way and to become a market leader in the space. And of course, we also look at the product. And when we looked at Quiq, we saw the potential of their solution and the technology that they developed, with the increasing use of digital channels and what Mike said about having this, frustrating interactions with chatbots and consumers even preferring to text with a company rather than making a phone call. I think there was a CX leader survey that found that 46% of consumers prefer text-based channels. I'm definitely one of those consumers. And it's clear, right, how Quiq is in the right spot to help CX leaders and some of the largest brands in the world that are also SAP customers. So this is what really stood out to us, the funders and the product. And we are so grateful for, having Quiq as part of the SAP.io family.
Yes, I think you touched upon that very beautifully. I know the drive and the vision of the founders is absolutely key, combined with, the capability of SAP.io and so many other resources come together. So on that, talking of founders, Mike, someone with deep-rooted history in customer experience, and you've been in this arena for quite a few years and shaped it actually as an industry, how do you think that Gen AI itself is altering the foundations of customer interactions, perhaps from the old to the new?
I guess let me describe it as kind of giving a difference from where we were to where we are now. And if I was dismissive, I said, we used to work on chatbots. You knew we were interacting with a chatbot. In that generation, in the prior generation, we were able to, with reasonable level of accuracy, when a customer said something, we were able to understand what the customer said, or at least what the intent of their question was. And then in that generation, the next step in the process was, well, let's map that intent to an answer, and that answer might have been an API lookup, or it might have been a knowledge-based search, but it was always one answer. It was like one intent, one answer. And then the answer that came back was a pretty generic, sterile response that hopefully covered all types of questions that were related to that particular intent or topic. So that was the prior generation. So to answer your question, how is Gen AI altering this generation of customer interactions? Well, in this generation, we still can determine with reasonable degree of accuracy the intent. However, we can actually understand if there's multiple intents. Like, say you ask a two-part question, like we might use some car insurance examples as we go through here, because Loop Auto Insurance is one of our first clients live on generative AI. And so if you went to Loop and said something like, my son just passed his driver's exam. How do I add him? And oh, by the way, how do I also get a copy of my insurance card? You could ask both of those questions in one interaction and get answers to both. And that was something that was never possible in the past, because again, like every customer statement turned into one response. The other thing that in this generation is significantly different, so everything I've talked about so far was like determining the intent of the question. And then in the prior generation, we just gave you a static answer. In this generation, and this is really where it's kind of like still blows my mind, and I get excited talking about it. It was never possible for a computer to generate language that was human quality language in the past, and like actually consume some input and turn that input into a very concise, contextual, personalized response. Like if I ask a question about a Toyota Camry, the response was going to come back as a Toyota Camry and how to insure a Toyota Camry. And so the long answer to your question, Samar, is this generation, the AI's ability to read and understand multiple questions and then generate very personalized and contextual responses is much more human-like than anything that ever existed before. And as a result, it's able to answer a significantly larger portion of questions than was ever possible in the past. So I think the opportunity to automate, we're not trying to like force everybody into the AI. We're just trying to automate the routine questions and leave the harder questions for the humans. The ability to automate those types of questions is far greater in this generation.
Right. You've summed that up beautifully. You know, how individuals tend to communicate, customers tend to communicate, the issues or requests, you know, can be layered with nuance and have a specific individuality in terms of how they branch, right? The nested queries in effect, right? And how you diagnose that in a classical sense in computer code and what you can do in generative AI is quite different, right? In terms of how you respond. So on that basis, Ejieme, I wanted to ask you, given your experience, especially the New York Times, and I was very excited to ask this question, how did that experience at such an organization, shape your perception of the need for technologies such as Gen AI and customer interaction?
I was saying leading customer experience at the New York Times is a great training ground for thinking about elevating customer interactions in general. At the Times, journalism needed to move at the pace of the world, at the speed of the world, and that's fast, right? But it also needed to be, trusted and a reliable source of information. It's this balance of, quick yet of quality interactions that, we also try to emulate outside of the newsroom. And so in designing customer interactions, we definitely wanted to take a page from that dichotomy. We used to say that competition at the Times wasn't the Wall Street Journal or other news publications, but it was literally anything else that could be taking a customer's attention. Your time and attention was the ultimate thing that the Times was competing for. So that meant speed and consistency of delivering trusted value was key. And I think if you draw parallels now to, how we look to use tools like generative AI in customer interactions, I think a few things kind of stand out for me. Customer experiences and interactions need to be quick. We don't want to waste our customers' time. We want the interaction to be fast. We also want that interaction to be value added. They need to be contextual. They need to be helpful. And then lastly, they need to be trusted. So you need to share reliable data and information that helps answer a customer's inquiry. So I think these same principles still apply to generative AI. And I think generative AI can actually help large enterprises now deliver that promise. So you can deliver quick, empathetic, value-added information. The trusted part, now this is where it gets a little bit tricky, right? Because, you can't just deploy ChatGPT to help answer your customers' inquiries. You definitely need to source the right information internally and knowledge and make sure that you're guardrailing, if you are using a large language model, that you're guardrailing that so that you do have accurate and reliable information from your organization as well. But again, I think those same principles that, the Times was building for are still relevant in terms of how we should be thinking about designing customer experiences today.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think the first principles don't go away just because the technology has changed, right? As you say, those principles carry on and people have certain expectations. How they're delivered certainly will change with technology, but principles are core to this. And Naveen, thank you for coming up on stage. I wanted to go Domi first, and then I'll invite you to speak. Domi, just wanted to get your perspective on this, because we look at how not only principles, but also cross-cultural experience, and given your expertise in this area, how do you believe cultures perceive and interact with Gen AI?
Yeah, that's a great question, Samar. Of course, the use of generative AI tools is spreading rapidly, especially here in North America. Only 22% of people or in the business world seems that they didn't really have exposure. But the interesting thing is that, for example, ChatGPT is still not available to a lot of countries, meaning that some cultures don't even have access to ChatGPT. They can't even experience the power of these new technologies. And funny enough, but Italy, the country where I'm from, was the first Western European country to ban ChatGPT just a few months ago in March. And it was restored only after OpenAI addressed issues that were raised by Italy's data protection authority. But there are still governments that are not allowing their citizens to access this technology. But generally speaking, everybody has the same concerns around inaccuracy, cybersecurity, intellectual property infringement, regardless the cultures. And everybody is really thinking about data security when interacting with these models. Are they capturing this information or this interaction in some sort of way that can be monetized or that could be potentially infringing on privacy? And second is also intellectual property. And every country is thinking about that. If, for example, I'm using some of the outputs of these models in a commercial way, am I exposing myself to legal vulnerabilities? So across cultures, I see that there are still the same type of concerns around generative AI. But I think that, with time, as Ejieme also said, with adoption of generative AI, we will also come to a point where this concern will be addressed.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we're in a rapidly maturing area, and we've seen the headlines happening, various inquiries in the US Senate, as well as in the UK today, actually, a conference happening as well to discuss these major issues. And it's going to take time, I think, for lawmakers and for cultures, business cultures and legal cultures to catch up, perhaps, with how this is rapidly evolving. Naveen, thank you for being so patient. Would you like to unmute yourself and make your comment?
Sure. Thanks, Sharon. Hello, everyone. I have a question to the panel. So I want to understand what challenges and limitations do organizations face when implementing conversational AI?
Hey, Naveen, thanks for the question. One of the challenges that we just touched on it was the lead into your question was, is the organization comfortable with AI? And so as we interact with businesses, I think we distinctly see that there are some organizations that have leaned in, have updated their policies and data security standards, and they're ready to go, and they're starting to implement or at least evaluate vendors and move towards an implementation with AI. Other businesses are standing back. I mean, I had one potential client who we were signing a contract for that was not AI related, who told me, if you put the letters A and I together in this order form, I won't be able to get it approved. And so there's the organizations who aren't quite ready yet. So I think to answer your question, one of the things that we're seeing is just different organizations are at a different place in their journey of evaluating whether AI is appropriate for that organization based upon security, legal, et cetera.
All right, thank you. A quick reminder to the audience, you have a question or comment, please do raise your hand. Use the raise hand button. I'll be delighted to promote you to the stage. Thank you, Naveen. All right, so that concludes the first topic we talked about in terms of the envisioning and the origination of generative AI. So let's move on to the practical implementation. And so, Naveen, you stole my thunder there a little bit, but that's perfect, right? It logically follows. How do we actually go about making this a reality? Ejieme, I wanted to ask you, as you worked with customers both in the US and in Europe, across EMEA, are you seeing any differences in the adoption of AI between these regions?
Yeah, so adoption, I would say, is still a bit early to tell. I'm actually very eager in the next few months to see more of these implementations out in the wild. But we do have a few, I would say, early indications. So there's similar levels of interest in applying generative AI to customer experience use cases across, prospective customers that we're talking to in EMEA and the ones that, as Mike mentioned, that we're talking to also in the US. I think one of the, I think quickest to value use cases is enhancing the customer experience. We see this time and time again on multiple studies from different third-party organizations like Gartner and even McKinsey. So I think in general, many of the enterprises we're dealing with across the globe see a huge opportunity with improving customer experiences using this technology. So I think that's pretty similar. I do think that the rise of ChatGPT, at the start of, when it first came out and everyone was so excited about it, I would say that a larger portion of our initial conversations were happening with European companies. We found that they had perhaps already funded or at least we're starting to move around budget and resources to start to pilot certain use cases. So we definitely did see, again, several months ago, a higher proportion of those types of conversations from European customers. I would say now it's a little bit more fairly equally split. I don't know if you want to add to that, Mike. I saw you go off mute.
No, continue on. I think it's an interesting observation. It's also different sectors. It's geography is one factor, but also business sectors is another.
I was just going to go to that, actually. I do think that certain industries in Europe seem to have a larger gap to fill. There was a digital trend study by McKinsey done, I believe, in the middle of last year, actually. So, predates the Gen AI buzz, but some of those findings were quite interesting. The study showed that between retail, travel, and hospitality sectors in general, Europe had a much larger gap to fill in terms of designing better customer experiences. The study showed that European customers felt that those experiences were not meeting their needs as compared to US companies of the same industry. So I do think that there is a difference in terms of the requirements for filling that customer experience gap that I think European companies can definitely take advantage of and improve the maturity they have around customer experiences. And I do think that the generative AI can help with that.
Mike, a good opportunity there, to shine a light in terms of the successes that Quiq has had so far in realizing this new customer experience. Would you like to touch upon that?
Sure. So, building on the Naveen's question, an organization being comfortable with AI is one aspect. The AI working well is another aspect. And so, one of the challenges that we initially had to overcome was that we want the AI for a business use to essentially have the skills of language understanding and generation, but we really don't want it to use any of the information that it was trained on. And if folks on the call are familiar with hallucinations, which is a tendency of the AI to answer incorrectly or basically make something up. That is one issue. Also, the AI was trained on information that at this point is fairly out of date. And frankly, for most of the contexts that we work with clients on, the answer to a question is account specific, like where is my order? Or can I replace this item that I previously ordered? Something like that. Or can I change this reservation? And all those things are not at all the answers to those questions are not at all in the training data. The answers to those questions are in the internal reservation system or the internal order system. And so one of the successes that we've had is we've been very good at being able to, I'll call it, give the AI amnesia. And so you think about if a person has amnesia, they can read and understand and communicate, but they can't remember any of the facts. And that's exactly what we want to do to the AI. And so the way we do that is through instructions to the AI, but then we also have a pipeline of processing that monitors what is coming back out of the AI and applying fact-checking and safeguards. And like, for instance, we look at the answer that was generated by the AI and compare it to the information that was provided. And if the distance is very similar, then the answer is probably on point. And if the distance is a longer distance away, there's a risk in that answer, and maybe we don't want to give that particular answer. So that particular process of being able to give the AI amnesia, put our information in, and then have a very nice, accurate, personalized response coming back out is that's the biggest difference in this generation of AI, but it's also, I think I would label it as our team's greatest success so far, because we've been very innovative about how to go about that.
Yeah, I mean, could you give us a practical example of what that actually looks like to the customer in sort of answering a query?
Sure. So from a customer's perspective, the process I just described is completely under the hood, under the covers, if you will. So, if the customer came and said, ask a question about, let me see if I can make up any question in real time. Like, for instance, how do I change my insurance policy to add a new driver? And at that point in time, the answer to that question is probably in the training set in like 1,000 different insurance sites. And so behind the scenes, essentially, we're removing that information from the AI's memory and inserting our information. And when the AI, and then we're going to get that answer to how to change that policy. We're going to give it back to the AI and ask it to, given this question, can you provide a response given this answer? And when the AI generates that answer, again, we're going to do this fact-checking process to make sure that the answer was generated from the information that we provided, and the AI didn't insert a URL to another website, for instance, in the process. So from a customer's perspective, all they can tell is they ask a question, they got a very personalized, accurate response back, but the pipeline to do that actually turns out to be fairly complicated.
Right, yeah, I mean, there's a lot happening under the hood, to deliver that seamless experience. And so, Domi, I wanted to ask you, given your experience in mentoring startups and taking them on that journey, from envisioning to execution, what sort of common challenges do they face, particularly from an AI lens, to move to practical application?
Yeah, there are definitely challenges there, and as you said, there are challenges that startups face regardless of the technology area that they operate in. So, for example, identify product market fit, or making sure that they are really aligned with a particular business problem that they are solving, or align with a particular business audience that they want to serve. And these are areas that are not really going to change, regardless of the technology way and the hottest topic of the moment. But when it comes to AI startups, there are some challenges, and Mike talked a little bit about that. But when transitioning from a conceptual AI idea to practical application, data availability and quality is one of those challenges, right? Startups may really struggle to access high quality data, even like sufficient amount of quality data to train and validate their AI models. The other challenge that we see is resource constraints. We all know the startups have limited capital, and hiring experienced AI engineers and data scientists can be very costly. And then lastly, one of these three main challenges that we see is really that data privacy and security, right? Because ensuring data privacy and security of user data is paramount. And this really requires startups to invest and implement robust data protection measures to prevent breaches and misuse of data. And this is also what startups will really have to invest on to kind of make their solution enterprise grade ready. So it's really interesting, to see how startups are tackling these challenges in this space and in this time.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a new field. It's challenging, and there are some consistent problems that do come up. And as you say, resources and skills are often mentioned. It's easy to talk about, but finding experienced people is always a challenge, and getting them in a timely fashion to ensure that your particular startup is able to get to market first is always a challenge for all of us. A quick reminder to the audience, if you have a question or comment, please do raise your hand. We're now in the last 10 minutes. So now's your opportunity to please ask a question or share a comment with the panel. All right. So moving on then, Ejieme, I wanted to come back to you then. Given the challenges you talked about in EMEA, how has Quiq's generative AI emerged as a solution? Or another way to put that is, how are you approaching customers to demonstrate the value of Quiq in terms of what they may be doing already?
Yeah, so another good question. I think Quiq actually excels in this because I think one of our many secret sauces is making sure that we can pull together a genuine human-like experience. So while we do leverage AI, we do believe that ultimately human agents and AI can actually work better together. It's not one or the other. The goal, going back to the CX principles that we talked about, at the start of the discussion, definitely still apply. So the ability to deliver fast, convenient interactions, where and how your customers want them. And for Quiq, AI is core to both the customer experience and also the agent experience. We want to help customers get answers faster. We also want to help agents get answers faster so that they can help customers. And we do that in two ways. So, we have customer-facing AI assistants, so they can be put on different messaging channels like WhatsApp, for example. We can build those assistants to fully answer questions or to complete full interactions, like some of the examples Mike gave earlier. And let's say the customer wanted or needed to chat with an agent. We can also then supplement the agent experience with our AI contact center agent workspace to have agent assistant features like AI summarization and AI authoring as well. So we're able to apply AI to both, again, the customer side and also the agent side.
Right. Yeah. So Mike, then taking that as Ejieme has described it, now what's the most significant feedback you've had from customers so far, and what value have they seen from the product?
Yes. So I think the overwhelming feedback we've seen is just at a high level, like how much more human-like. And I hesitate to actually say the AI is a human. It's not, but it is human-like. And so how much more conversational, how much more accurate, how much better the responses are coming from this generation of AI. So yes, that's the feedback we're seeing. And I think we're really just on the early stages of this journey. I mean, it's less than a year since ChatGPT kind of arrived on the marketplace. And already we've made really significant strides in leveraging this AI. But I think that the underlying technology and the capabilities to conversationally engage with a computer, obviously in customer experience, that's very important, and we can provide a lot of value in customer experience. But I think we're overall just maybe scratching the surface. And so I'm excited to see what the next 5 years bring, because this underlying ability to read and generate language, it's not just isolated to like answering questions in customer experience. It might also be, in the future, it might enable you to interact with your refrigerator in a much better way than you do today, which is not interacting at all. So long story short, I think this is a super exciting period of time.
Absolutely. We have a question. Hey, let me promote you up.
Oh, hi everyone. How you doing? I just had one question in particular. Are there any potential like biases with the AI when it's interacting with humans when it's having that conversation? Like from past conversation that it might have had, it might reflect the answer that it might give future consumers that might have.
Yeah, I'll answer that. I think anytime you're using AI, ethics and trust and accuracy are all very, very relevant topics. In the usage that we have at Quiq, because we are only using the AI to understand language and to generate language, a lot of the ethics and bias concerns don't come into play because it's just language. Like, the language itself is just communicating and generating, and it doesn't have the potential to kind of like skew and insert a bias through because it's not the answer, it's just the generation. But I think the general topic of like how is the AI learning, I mean, it's certainly important. And I mean, the world, I think, is going to evolve quite a bit in terms of how data is trained and what data is available for training in the future. But from our standpoint in a business usage, luckily, we don't have to deal with the same type of sticky types of issues that like Bing or Google might have to resolve in providing answers to search to consumers and deciding which information to actually return to people in their personal lives. In our usage of the AI, we just have to return the company's answer, which the company has actually generated, and we don't modify the answer in the future based upon prior answers. We're always going back to that original source of truth, so that there's no creep or drift of the answers that are occurring over time.
Oh, cool. I didn't realize that. Thanks.
All right, thank you. So we're coming to time. We've got a couple of minutes left. So I'd just like to wrap up then with the panel. So our final topic was the future, but we've just about making it now. So just a quick 30 seconds from each of you, starting with Domi. Now, what does the future hold from your perspective, Domi, for Gen AI and customer experience?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that everybody is so excited about the future. And generative AI has really the potential, right, to transform different industries and sectors. I think obviously customer service and support is where we're seeing a lot of use cases right now with chatbots, virtual assistants. There are some other industries that I'm really excited about what Gen AI can do. And then, one of them, for example, agriculture, farming, with Gen AI, we can help really optimize the crop management. We already have some of the SAP.io startups in Latin America that are doing that. Also, of course, manufacturing supply chain with, optimization of manufacturing processes. Overall, I think we will see generative AI really, transforming industries, and it's just exciting now to see what will happen in the future. But
oh yeah, the future is absolutely exciting. Ejieme.
I think one emerging trend I'm really excited about is voice. So ChatGPT, was text-based. Funny enough, while we were on this live discussion, the New York Times I got a New York Times alert, speaking of the New York Times again, and it talked about how ChatGPT has just today released a voice version. So I'm really eager to see the interface of voice and large language models intersect. And quick plug for Quiq. We also now have voice capabilities as well. So not only text-based assistance. So yeah, I think voice is a new and exciting frontier.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw the same alert from New York Times. That's exciting. That's what I'll be doing next tonight, is taking that for a test drive. Mike, what does the future hold?
It's interesting. I think from the way humans expect to interact with computers, I think that today the underlying assumption for many consumers is that if I'm going to be forced into an automation or a computer-aided interaction, it's not going to be as high quality as maybe talking to a human on the other side. And I think the future holds where people are going to learn and understand just through high quality experiences that, like, actually, I'm okay interacting with the AI because I can get my answer 24 hours a day. I can get a very accurate answer. And every now and then I need to talk to someone who might be able to answer a very detailed and specific question. But most of the time I'm good with the AI. So I think that the willingness and the consumer attitude towards automated experiences, chatbots, et cetera, I think that will hopefully change in the future and people be more comfortable interacting with something that isn't a human on the other side.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think we'll start to see how consumer culture shifts to this expectation that, in fact, all organizations should have some sort of generative AI customer experience, which will answer most of their standard queries, right? And of course, a human agent and a human conversation is always very welcome at the right point. But sometimes many of these issues and questions can be solved much quicker to the satisfaction and improved satisfaction of the customer. And ultimately, this is what it's all about. So with that, I'd like to thank the panel. Thank you, Domi, Ejieme, and Mike. It was a pleasure to have you. I'd like to thank the audience for joining and participating. And do look out for future editions of the Strategy Remix. So with that, thank you so much, everyone. If you have any questions or comments, do feel free to drop me a line. If you have any suggestions for a future topic or edition, or would like to feature as a panelist, feel free to reach out to me. So with that, thank you, everyone, and stay tuned.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Samar.